Peace. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Ronnie, aka Greenheart Goddess 9, and in this video I will be discussing a channeling that I received and the research that I have done on it, and just sharing and shedding some light on the dark that has been heavily depicted on Medusa. I have some notes here that I will be reading from. I also have a few pictures to show. I hope you enjoy. So nowadays, anything that is played to create fear, I usually do the story behind it. I'm typically one for the underdog. I also felt a very close connection with some of my own personal experiences, where in the past I felt voiceless or would believe that if I spoke up for myself when violated, I wouldn't be believed. I also feel that she was speaking to me, Medusa was speaking to me, one divine feminine to another, just because I've come into a lot of my power and my strength, and I am unafraid, and the divine feminine cannot and will not be silenced. So when you go to Google Medusa, which is what I did to start off, the typical pop-up, the first few pop-ups will have the Wikipedia definition of whatever it is you're searching for. And so in Wikipedia, she is depicted as a monster, a Gorgon, which is defined as a fierce, frightening, repulsive woman, generally described as a winged human female with living venomous snakes in her hair. She is one of three sisters and considered to be the only mortal sister of the other sisters who are immortal. Those who gaze upon her face would turn to stone. She was killed by Perseus, and he used her severed head after her death to defend himself in future what was called adventures, which I thought was interesting. So with my curiosity, I'm thinking, okay, so is there another side to her? Because this is what whomever wants us to believe about her. Where is the light to all this dark? So as I began researching through Wikipedia, after seeing that definition, I decided to go a little deeper, and I found a couple of articles that actually shed light on the beautiful Medusa, and I'm going to share that. Let's see. So one of the first things that I found, and this was one of the earliest tales of Medusa, and it's found in the Piazza Nia, who is an 8th century Greek poet who created this didactic poem that traces the history of the world from its creation through the battle between the Olympians and the Titans to the ascension of Zeus as the absolute ruler of all the gods. In this poem, Medusa is very beautiful, the most alluring of the three sisters. With not much more to find here, there's only a slight mention of her later fate, and how she came to her death by Perseus. Later myths describe Medusa as the only one of three sisters with the snake locks and hideous looks, because they were a punishment from goddess Athena, also known as Minerva, for having been raped in Athena's temple by Poseidon or Neptune. And one of these references where this can be found is it's named Ovid's Metamorphosis, and this is found in the article that I discovered by Austin. His name is Austin Hackney, and I'll leave that link in the description box. But this is one of the first indications of what her real story may be. And then I'll read the poem here that I have. Find it. I have it pulled up right away. Sorry. Okay. So, Medusa once had charms to gain her love. A rival crowd of envious lovers strove. They, who have seen her, own, never did trace more moving features in a sweeter face. Yet above all, Her length of hair they own, in gold ringlets, waved and graceful shone. Her Neptune saw, and with such beauty fired, resolved to compass what his soul desired. In chaste Minerva's fane, he lustful stayed, and seized and rifled the young, blushing maid. The bashful goddess turned her eyes away, nor durst such bold impurity survey. But on the ravished virgin vengeance takes. Her shining hair is changed to hissing snakes. These in her Aegis palace joys to bear, the hissing snakes her foes more sure ensnare than they did lovers once when shining hair. So with that being read, at the heart of the story, Medusa's rape by Poseidon is resulting from her having inherent and alluring beauty, and her saying no upon his approach. Woman and woman, Athena, also known as Minerva, and then Medusa, experiencing odds with one another, woman coming against woman, seeking approval from a man in the middle. Medusa being blamed for what was gifted to her at birth, being considered provocation and protecting herself, expressing her power and displaying her individuality. The victim is punished, but not the perpetrator. A man who lacked control of his lust and abused his power, that is to protect and not harm a woman. I got a picture here. This is one of the earlier photos of Medusa with her blonde hair, beauty in the face, not depicted as the evil monster that is being portrayed today. Whereas this depiction barely portrayed at all. I'd say about 2 to 3%. And it wasn't hard to find this information, so I guess that percentage could be a little bit higher. But again, when you hear the name, when most people, I won't say you, but when most people hear the name Medusa, it's not a light association. I'm not going to say very light. So there's much more theory behind this, but I just wanted to look into this and to share the other side of the coin and why Medusa was depicted so darkly. Even the snakes were depicted as dark, when they're not, for that matter, to invoke fear. She was ultra powerful. Even after her beheading, Pegasus and Chrysaor were born from Medusa's severed head. And these are two brothers that were birthed from Poseidon, resulting from the violation of rape. Blood from her right side revived the dead, and the blood from her left side was poisonous, killing instantly. Medusa's severed head was still used by Perseus to turn others to stone, and used on Athena's shield in the battle for protection. And that can be shown here on the Sicilian flag. Please don't pay attention to the black marks. My printer was acting a little strange. Can you see that? Hi. And you can look this up. It's the Sicilian flag, Sicily, Italy. And so the two colors are representative of the first two towns of Sicily. And then the shapes of the triangles are representative of the infinite cyclic time, along with the legs. The legs also representing the three capes of Sicily, the wheat and the snakes being representatives of omens against bad luck. So, while shedding this light, my purpose of this video, and here comes the train, but we'll just keep going. My purpose of this video is to also open perspective after walking blindly in belief about a historical patriarchal-based story that paints a dark image of a female, a matriarch. To reflect on our true intrinsic value as women, to be aware of our worth and power undefined by outside frameworks, and why it may be that women will be so quick to fight over a man for approval rather than loving self fully and the sisterhood fully, uplifting one another and unifying. Realize that victimization and silence has been a part of an outdated patriarchal society for too damn long. We should never be afraid to use our own voice. The matriarch birthed the patriarch. A ton of respect, recognition, and appreciation of the matriarch is lost and shall be returned. To have understanding that even if the dark story resides, we are encouraged to see both sides of the coin for ourselves and remain in our own power of discernment, drawing our own feelings and opinions on a person, place, or thing, to then be able to either support or debunk, which could then possibly produce creations that assist another. I also noticed the split of her name. And her name, Medusa, means to protect or to rule over. But that her name split in the middle is Med, M-E-D, and then I noticed USA at the end. This stuck out to me, so my first thought on that, I didn't do a whole lot into that, but my first thought on that was, and I wrote it down here because I get to thinking, and I just wanted to make sure I was clear on the actual message that was being brought to me. But with Med and USA, the power of what a female can offer medicinally to others through natural ways of healing is being covered up or considered to be ineffective and incomparable to what is typically and massively prescribed to the human race, possibly doing more harm than good, that may only cover up and alleviate the ailment rather than actually understanding the source and providing true, unharmful healing. So I'm going to leave with a quote, and I'll leave all of my references and sources of greater information in the description box. This quote is coming from a story that was written by Helene, Cixous, and the title of it is The Laughter of Medusa. And this is just the first part of her viewpoint in her writing. And it goes, I shall speak about women's writing, about what it will do. Woman must write herself, must write about women and bring women to writing, from which they have been driven away as violently as from their bodies, for the same reason, by the same law, with the same fatal goal. Woman must put herself into text, as into the world and into history, by her own movement. So, this was my understanding on a channeled message and a meeting from Medusa, to help, to inspire, and to motivate. Thank you for tuning in. Keep loving one another, and always stay learning.